UFC 322 is over. Islam Makhachev is our new welterweight champion here. Let's get this out of the way. I picked Jack Della Maddalena on my preview. I had my concerns about Islam moving up. What if he's like not as physical up at welterweight? Or quite the contrary, what if the extra weight was a burden to his cardio? You never know these things. I was expecting Jack Della Maddalena to be able to scramble early, to create movement, to survive, and then on the later rounds, like be able to defend takedowns and take over with his superior striking. But Islam looked physically great at 170. It looks like he's like the perfect size. He looked like pretty comparable to Jack Della. He looked strong. He looked quick. His cardio held up very well, even though it was a very dominant performance. So we gotta watch out for that moving forwards. But to me, Islam Makhachev seems like a natural welterweight who just was like super well committed to dieting and training to make 155 and was able to perform well. There are different cases, like different fighters react differently to that. For example, McGregor for a while was able to perform perfectly fine at 145 while being huge. While, for example, someone like Dustin Poirier, who is like pretty much exactly the same size as Conor McGregor, he was not able to perform at the same level at 145. He said that the diet and the training needed to make weight was taking away too much from actual like technique drilling. He was not feeling himself, and you could see when he moved up to lightweight, he looked like a monster immediately. While McGregor obviously looked like physically better at 155, but there was not such a big difference. For Islam, it looked like he's one of those guys that moved up and looked better. But at the same time, he was able to perform at a very high level at 155, obviously. That being said, I think that Islam looked very good here. But I would not say that he looked great, not because he was not impressive, but because I thought this was a very lackluster performance by the Australian here. That means that Islam, to be fair, like to be quite honest, didn't have to dig very deep in this fight to win. So this is not like taking anything away from Islam Makhachev, one of the all-time greats. I'm just saying that Jack Della Maddalena did not show up here. No, not in a great way, to be honest. So let's talk about what went wrong for Jack Della Maddalena here. First, proactive defense was mostly gone. I talk about this after his brilliant performance against Belal Muhammad. But he was very active, a lot of volume, long strikes, taking angles after his attacks, constantly level changing to meet Muhammad, to attack the body, to be in good positions to defend takedowns here. Obviously, Belal Muhammad, Islam Makhachev, two different fighters. Of course, like Islam is a southpaw, he's a way better wrestler in open space. Belal Muhammad more of a driving you to the fence and being very good at connecting the hands to take you down. Islam has a lot more depth to his wrestling game. He's very good at in open space attacking the legs, turning the corner very quickly. He has very good single legs and a lot more depth overall. He has more resources to take you down, and it seems like he's faster too. Belal Muhammad pretty fast. And then against the cage, Islam also has a very like complete series from body lock, mixing some like judo stuff, trips, throws. He can play like the Polish throw, hip throw, change up, but he can also like drop to the legs. A very complete wrestler. So I'm not saying that if Jack Della fought like he did against Belal Muhammad, he would have won here. I'm just saying that he would have given himself a better shot for sure. And I would have been more impressed by Islam if he had to deal with something like that. It would have told me a lot more about his potential at 170. And again, I'm not blaming Islam for this. I'm just putting the blame on Jack Della that he didn't push Islam enough to show us enough about how good he is at this new weight class, okay? One thing interesting about this fight was that Jack Della, for this fight, Jack Della always has been a guy that switches stances a lot. And here he fought like more than 90% of the time in front of Islam from southpaw stance, which is his natural stance to be fair. Because he was like standing right in front of Islam and not throwing that much volume and probing with his jab a lot. Islam came prepared with a great counter in the form of leg kicks. He was landing nasty calf kicks, and that seemed to be a new thing that he came prepared for in this fight. He didn't show a lot of that against Dustin Poirier, a fellow southpaw who we knew was ready to strike with him. I wonder what was the deal with southpaw being so exclusive here, especially And you can tell that it was something that they brought from camp, because even when he was like getting his lead leg thrashed, he was not switching stances match here. So I feel like they were like banking on Southpaw. I wondered if in his camp they were expecting Islam to be a worse wrestler in a close stance matchup, or a few others. And obviously, Dustin Poirier was able to defend takedowns. But the curious thing about that is that Dustin Poirier was relying on like feeding single legs. That's like perfectly fine to do in open stance. Like obviously in open stance, you're like kind of offering your lead leg. But maybe there was something that they saw in camp that they thought defending the takedowns was going to be easier from close stance. That's my guess. But Islam seemed very well equipped to deal with close stance in this one. And then we get to the main thing that was like the bane of JDM's existence in this fight. And it was his commitment to high guard. Let's talk about like, and JDM has been someone that has made the high guard work at very high level MMA very successfully. But there was some stuff that he was doing in the Bilal Mohammed matchup that he was not doing here. Especially, as I mentioned, he was changing levels a lot, which makes it easier to like get your hands involved. And he was also like using his long punches to like frame. And also, it's very, very cool thing that he did against Bilal when he was like changing levels, and he was putting like a framing with the elbow, putting a barrier there to be able to like fight grips and defend the takedowns. None of that here. So Islam had very, very clean access to Jack Della's hips because he was like committing to a high guard. So Islam could just feint, make him put his hands up, and then he would shoot underneath. And as I said, Jack Della not changing levels as frequently here, so he was standing pretty tall all of the time, in no position to defend takedowns here. Other than the bad positioning here, no resistance, like no attempts of sprawling. He was like not seeing the takedowns. He was not blading himself to feed the single leg like Dustin Poirier was doing. He was not trying to grab underhooks. There are some like adaptations that could have been made here. We've seen for the striker against the wrestler, if you do that, some guys have gone with like his straight up like low lead hand in a very like shoulder roll stance. Robert Whittaker did that back in the day, and that obviously like makes it good to like grab underhooks, threaten with uppercuts and a lot of that stuff. But even like, as I said, like there are stuff that you can do from the high guard, and you can like make reads, create the space, get cool angles, and get that advantage to win like extra time. But it feels like he was one step behind defending the takedowns all the way around because of his tactic selection here. And now let's talk about the grappling, okay? So obviously, one thing about here that maybe made it complicated for Jack Della was that Islam very conservative from top position here, just more than happy to just sit in top half guard and landing like decent ground and pound, but nothing like super like fight ending threatening. And Jack Della did not have a lot of answers from half guard. Craig Jones was saying like, I told you to not play the half guard here. But yeah, he was trying a few like Craig Jones classics here. You know, like elevations with butterflies, reverse butterflies. Also, he tried like the 2-on-1 wrist control to turtle and get up, especially because Jack Della's pretty good at defending back takes. He tried at that to varying degrees of success a few times, and he was trying octopus get-ups. Octopus guard is when you find yourself in bottom half guard and you sneak across the body and you try to grab a waist cinch to create the scrambles from that position. He tried that a few times, but Islam seemed very familiar with the entries and he was blocking them effectively. But I feel like Jack Della, other than just like accepting half guard, I don't know if Craig Jones want him to like sit guard more, to attack more with like regard and try to attack with butterflies, or maybe turtle more, go to his 204s more. I'm not quite sure about that end, right? But he seemed like quite like disappointed with the amount of half guard. One thing that I feel like Jack Della needed to do more here, once it was clear that Islam had like answers to his basic, not to his basic, but to his go-tos on the ground, is that he needed to take more risk, especially because he was not having an answer for the takedown. So there was no point in waiting for the next round if you knew you were going to get taken down again. It was on his best interest to make Islam like work more and make Islam also take risk to take advantage of that. And for example, at one moment, Jack Della just went for classic like underhook, half guard, get up, just like using that to build base and work to a single leg position, wrestle up. And Islam, obviously, from that position, he loves to attack with his short arm dart stroke. But Jack Della was like very familiar with that and was able to defend. So I think he needed to do more of that. Just give like more like take the risk to maybe end up on worse positions against Islam, but maybe in those transitions you are able to use your scrambling ability. And I feel like he was too patient. He was like too accepting of the positions, too defeated in that sense. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things went wrong for Jack Della. Obviously, Islam tremendous performance. Again, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I feel like Islam could have very well defeated the version of Jack Della that fought Belal Mohammed, even with all the tactics that I mentioned, because he looks super good here. But he got an easy time with Jack here, man. Yeah, it was like the lack of proactivity, not having like a clear answer to the takedowns, committing to the high guard, offering his hips on a plate, and on the ground, he was neutralized with his go-to moves by Islam and was not willing to take like bigger risk to improve position or give himself a chance. So I would say that was what went wrong for JDM in here. Very excited to see more of Islam at welterweight though. Very compelled about that. Not quite sure about him facing someone like Topuria. To be honest, at welterweight, I feel like Islam is way too big. The ones that I would be very interested about would be Shavkat Rakhmonov and Ian Gary, just because Shavkat is like big guy with very good grappling, fearless in the striking. It would be very interesting to see that. But Shavkat on the regionals was taking down quite a few, and he was like quite willing to play guard, so maybe Islam can just smush him, right? And Ian Gary, he comes with very good preparation, great cardio, great mover on the outside, very long, longer than Islam too, just like Shavkat. So I would be very interested to see that too. Those are like my favorite matchups. It seems like Islam, other than, I mean, he hasn't mentioned Topuria, but we all know that he would accept that because it's a huge fight, right? But he wants Kamaru Usman, and I feel like at this stage, Kamaru Usman just gets boxed up by Islam Makhachev. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't give Usman a good shot at all in that one. You guys let me know in the comments what you think. What would you guys would advise Jack Della to do better if you were in his corner during the night? What would you say Jack Della should try to improve from now on? What kind of route his career should take from here on? Let me know in the comments. Let me know also who do you want to see Islam face at welterweight. I'm very interested about that. Leave your comments down below. If you want to support me, you can head over to Patreon to get access to exclusive content, or you can head over to my Fourth Wall store, original designs about combat sports, all of that in the description. Watch another video here, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.